Hi everyone, and today I'm going to be sharing my theory that The Nightmare Before Christmas is actually the origin story of Beetlejuice. I do have notes on my phone, and I am going to be inserting some clips and some pictures to help you guys see the theory come to life. So if I am looking off to the side, or if you see a reflection in my glasses, it's just my notes. Chill, it'll be okay. Now, hopefully you're coming to me from TikTok, but if you're not, then I hope you will go follow me on TikTok. But I shared this theory as a part of my TikToktober series on TikTok. The other day, my husband and I were watching The Nightmare Before Christmas, and I saw something familiar in the background, and I just wanted to share this. I do want to give a disclaimer. I know that this is kind of deep rabbit hole stuff, and that I kind of went overboard and made this crazy conspiracy theory that might not even be true or might not have any merit. You might think it's dumb, but I do ask that you're respectful in the comments. I know that Disney does a lot of Easter eggs and a lot of things like that, so just please be respectful in the comments. I'm fine with discussion. I'm fine with, I don't think that's the case. I'm fine with you saying that, but please just be respectful and don't be a jerk. First, I want to start by taking a look at the opening scene of The Nightmare Before Christmas, which is when they're singing the song This Is Halloween. And I noticed in this part of the movie, which is right at the beginning, that there's an interesting Easter egg, or maybe even cameo, by a familiar character that you see in Beetlejuice. So take a look at this short clip from This Is Halloween. Did you see that? If you look at it, it looks exactly like the snake from Beetlejuice. And I know his face looks a little different because he has like this face with not a red eye, and the Beetlejuice one has a red eye and all of that kind of stuff. But take a look at this still and look very closely at his arms and his hands, his fingers that are fingers like snakes, and you will see that they have red eyes. Now obviously this part of my proof is kind of stretching it, but this creature in The Nightmare Before Christmas is known as the one hiding under your stairs that has fingers like snakes and spiders in my hair. I think that's what he says. Anyway, so as we all know, in Beetlejuice himself turns into like a snake-like creature on the stairs towards the end of Beetlejuice. But if you know about like Barbara going outside, she tries to leave her house through the front door, and she ends up in Sandworm Land. I think that's what they call it. And that's where the sandworm lives. So I thought it was interesting because their door isn't right under their stairs, but all front doors would be under someone's stairs because you would have to go down the stairs to get out of the front door. It's very much a stretch, but that was kind of interesting to me because we only really see the sandworm when she goes out her front door. And some of the cartoons, people might like try to go out of a window or something like that, but that's what we see in the movie. So back to setting up for my theory. If you look at the corpse child in this next little clip from the Nightmare Before Christmas opening scene, you'll see something interesting there as well.
In this town we call home, everyone hail to the pumpkin song.
So if you see, the child is actually wearing black and white stripes. He's called the corpse child, and he's actually a pretty big part of the first opening scene. Who else do we know who wears black and white stripes? Beetlejuice. Now, at first, I was a little wary of sharing this as kind of the proof, mainly because the corpse child is bigger, but if you look at his mom and dad, his mom is like this really big corpse, and his dad is actually pretty skinny, about the same build as Beetlejuice, and he also has a lot of similar features of Beetlejuice, like just a little bit of hair. And if you look at this picture from the Beetlejuice movie cover and a still of the corpse dad, you will see that they're standing in the same stance. It's insane to me. They have just a little bit of hair. They kind of look similar, in my opinion. You might not think so. But I had the theory that if this is Beetlejuice as a child, when people grow up, they tend to take after one parent more strongly than the other. And my theory is that when he grew up, he slimmed down and he looked a little bit more like his dad. And on the case of the stripes on his shirt, that was also a point. I was like, well, they are black and white stripes. That is a very common Tim Burton thing. But his stripes as the corpse child are going horizontally, and Beetlejuice's, everyone will probably remember them going up and down. But if you look at Beetlejuice's jacket, the arms, the sleeves, actually go horizontally. Last interesting thing that I thought about the Nightmare Before Christmas corpse child is that no one really knows his name. He's known as the corpse child. It wasn't until later when they put some of the characters on trading cards in like a little trading card game that he was assigned the name Ethan. So I thought it was interesting because he doesn't introduce himself at any point. He doesn't say his name. And so it's just interesting because Beetlejuice isn't allowed to say his name.
All you gotta do is say my name.
Because he is a demon. And then the last point on that, because he's a demon, demons tend to take possession of people or of corpses. You see that as like a reoccurring motif in a lot of Halloween movies and Halloween things. You'll see like someone who's dead reanimated by something, some scary force. When you like look into that kind of stuff, I know this is kind of getting a little spooky, but when you look into like exorcisms and possessions and stuff like that, you see that the person that they inhabit tends to rapidly, like their body starts to decay and things just start to get worse and worse and worse in their body, and they lose all of their energy and life force. And it just makes it easier for like that entity to continue to possess that person and control them, because they don't have to fight their like urges or I guess the inner conscience of the person. So that I think is interesting, and that's an interesting way to think of it, because if this corpse child did grow up, it's possible that a demon could have possessed him and taken over his body. So that's kind of like my evidence for why I think that these two could be related. Like I said, if you don't agree, that's completely okay. No one says you have to. But now I wanted to share with you a theory that I kind of came up with in my mind that could possibly be the origin story of Beetlejuice, starting with this corpse kid in the town of Halloween. So at the end of The Nightmare Before Christmas, we see Jack falling in love with Sally. I think they share a kiss. You know, they fall in love, and when someone falls in love, they usually get a little mushy. They get really attached to their partner, and if they are like in a leadership role, for example, and maybe they've never been in love before, you can kind of see their leadership skills declining a little bit, because they don't want to be this hard person anymore. They want to be like a loving person who tries to understand their partner. My theory is that the corpse child was obviously a child under the leadership of the Pumpkin King, Jack Skellington. And after all of this stuff happened that Christmas, where, you know, Christmas was kind of turned into a nightmare, and Jack was not only falling in love with Sally, but he was also being very kind to Santa Claus, and he wanted to like let Santa Claus go afterwards. He wanted to make sure that nothing happened to him, and that, you know, Jack would just get to take over this holiday on his own. And he actually gets back, and they help Santa Claus get out and solve the problem. So needless to say, Jack comes back, and he's a lot softer than he used to be. He's not as scary, he doesn't freak people out as much, and so his leadership skills decline, and he becomes less of a poster child for Halloween or the town of Halloween. So the theory continues that the corpse kid grows up under this leadership, and people start to get really frustrated because Halloween just isn't as scary as it used to be anymore. No one is really making an effort to make Halloween scary anymore, and the corpse kid, as well as some other people that he grew up around, they are starting to get furious that Halloween is just not what it should be. So they go and they overthrow Jack by killing him. Part of the reason why I thought this was an interesting thing to add to the story, and someone pointed it out on my TikTok, good for you for being observant, because I actually didn't see this until I was researching this, but in Beetlejuice, if you look on his like little carnival area when he's like coming out and saying, hey, like, this is me, the top of the carnival thing, I guess the carnival tent where the flag comes off, there's a skull that looks eerily similar to Jack Skellington. And at first I was like, yeah, it's a skull. But then I actually saw from, I think it's called Cinefax or something like that, I'll put it on screen like a screen grab, they actually also said that it seemed to be a foreshadowing of this project that he was going to work on.
You can see there's a skull that looks a hell of a lot like Jack Skellington.
The only issue with that is that I did some research to see how long it took to make The Nightmare Before Christmas, because it is an animated film and it came out in 1993. And when I just did like an initial search, 3 years popped up. And so I thought it was interesting because Beetlejuice was actually made in 1988, which was 5 years prior to when The Nightmare Before Christmas came out. So it begs the question, did he know he was going to work on the project and had this like character in mind, or did he kind of have an origin story in mind? And I know that's a stretch, like I said, but it's fun to think of. Obviously, after they kind of overthrew Jack Skellington, Beetlejuice was put into power. And I could be wrong about this because I did fall asleep when I was just rewatching it with my husband, but it seemed like the snake that we talked about at the beginning, it seemed like he was around Jack a lot, which means that maybe he was some kind of confidant, or he had some kind of position within his like within his like monarchy of being the Pumpkin King. And so it's possible that he just remained loyal to whoever was in office as the king, and he was installed as like a close confidant of Beetlejuice when Beetlejuice was installed as the new king after they overthrew Jack. And then underneath the leadership of Beetlejuice, Halloween gets a lot scarier, a lot crazier things starts happening. We know that Beetlejuice has murdered people, has done terrible things, so it just kind of amps it back up. People start getting more cruel, the people of the town of Halloween start getting more evil as the days go by. And so Sally finally gets tired of it, and obviously there's going to be some people who are on Sally's side and did not like that Beetlejuice overthrew Jack and killed him. So the theory goes that there are some more doors in the forest where we see the Halloween and Thanksgiving, like the holiday doors. This area is kind of the epicenter for interdimensional travel, and that Sally decided to punish both Beetlejuice and his friend the Snake Boy for overthrowing Jack, and so she banished them to separate realms. And because the snake wasn't really making all of the decisions and was really just following orders, she put him in a limbo space, which is the Sandworm Land, to live out his days. And then she sent Beetlejuice to an area where he knows it would be harder for him to communicate and get out and cause more harm to people.
I got these friends on the outside that I said I'd meet, you know, and that's the kind of thing I have to be there in person.
I did find a cartoon. They did a cartoon several years later after the movie based off of Beetlejuice and Lydia and a bunch of the other characters in the movie. And you can tell that Beetlejuice is scared of being in Sandworm Land, because in this one episode that I found, he falls into Sandworm Land because he takes the wrong door out of a room.
Sandworm Land!
Now, I think it's possible that the sandworm, since we know that he was transformed and he doesn't really like talk, I think it's possible that the sandworm is angry at Beetlejuice because he got him banished to this other land, and he is unable to kind of walk and talk and live out his life and be happy because he's in this limbo world. So basically, Beetlejuice is trapped in a place where he's demonized because he is technically a demon in Beetlejuice, but he's not really like someone that anyone wants to work with, and people are scared of him, people don't want to work with him. He gets really angry when things don't go his way because he used to be a king, and now he's kind of stuck in this servitude kind of space where people have to call on him. He kind of has to do what people say, and then whenever he is let out, he can do stuff the way he wants to. But we're kind of left with that as the shell, and then Beetlejuice picks up with the rest of the story. So that is my theory. I'm really interested to see if you guys have anything proving it more, or any more questions that maybe we can research and dive into this some more. But I really liked researching this. I know, like I said, I kind of fell down the rabbit hole. I might have made some connections that made no sense to you, and that's completely fine. It's just a theory. It's nothing serious. If you like this video, please like it, subscribe to the channel. I have stuff going on every day in the month of October, either here on the channel or over on my blog, which will be linked in the description. And like I said, please be kind in the comments. Let's just love each other, because it's not that serious. It's not going to cost anyone their life or their job. I don't think that it's really that big of a deal. But if you have something to add or detract from this argument, please feel free to. Just do it in a kind way. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Bye!